Okay, so let me get this straight. A Trump judicial nominee will publicly tell a university who to hire, but won't tell the Senate who won the 2020 election. Watch what Adam Schiff does with that. Hit subscribe.
Mr. Traynor, I just want to follow up on my colleague's questions and make sure that I understand this. You were asked a series of questions about January 6th, and correct me if I'm wrong because I was not here at the time you were asked those questions, and you declined to go into whether this was an insurrection, the nature of the attack on the Capitol, because you said it might involve a case or controversy that would come before you. Is that correct?
Senator, it did involve cases or controversies. We had people in the District of North Dakota that I believe were charged.
So you felt it wouldn't be appropriate for you here today to discuss your views on what took place on January 6th, is that right?
I stated that what I saw was deeply troubling, Senator. The attacks on law enforcement, any attack on law enforcement should be condemned.
So why are you reluctant to answer questions about what took place on January 6th? On the one hand, and on the other hand, you say judges don't forfeit their First Amendment rights. You feel free to write to a university to tell them who they should hire or not hire, who you're going to hire or not hire. You feel free to immerse yourself in that controversy. But here you won't talk about your views of January 6th. Can you reconcile that for me?
Yes, the difference, Senator, is that there is no case or controversy with regard to hiring of law clerks, but handling matters.
Well, you're saying there's no case or controversy involving Columbia, involving the efforts by the administration to punish Columbia, all the litigation around Columbia. That wasn't the case or controversy?
That was far afield from the letter that was signed, Senator.
Really? Why is it far afield? Weren't you complaining about what was taking place on the Columbia campus, and as a result that you weren't going to hire law clerks and the other judges on your letter weren't going to hire law clerks? Wasn't that the nature of your correspondence?
Yes, that was the nature of the correspondence.
So you feel perfectly free to immerse yourself in that, exercise your First Amendment rights there. But when it comes to asking you basic questions about January 6th, you won't answer those questions.
The difference, Senator, is that there are cases or controversies that I have before me as a district judge relating to individuals that have been charged for conduct that occurred on that date in this Capitol.
So does that mean that any litigation involving Columbia you're prepared to recuse yourself from?
Senator, the limitation on Columbia was in regard to hiring law clerks. I hold no bias against the institution itself.
Well, whether you hold a bias towards it or not, you're saying today that you can't discuss any of the January 6th stuff because there are pending cases or controversies, even though they've all been pardoned by the president. I'm not sure what case or controversy you're referring to, but nevertheless, you're unwilling to say you recuse yourself from a case or controversy involving Columbia when you specifically weighed in there. How do we reconcile that?
Well, Senator, as I stated in the recusal order that Ranking Member Durbin raised, I indicated that I held no particular bias against...
Well, yeah, that's fine. You can say you hold no particular bias about January 6th, too. I mean, it's easy to say. Your letter demonstrates a very clear bias. I'm not saying that it's an unreasonable bias, but it is a bias. It is a prejudice in favor of one view that would cause people to question your impartiality if that case came before you. That seems to me a stronger, much stronger case for recusal than the one you're making to refuse to answer questions about January 6th. So let me just ask to make sure that I understand the limits of what you're prepared to say. Who won the 2020 election?
Senator, as I indicated in response to questions from Senator Blumenthal, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, as a sitting circuit court judge at the time of her nomination, was asked this question in questions to the record.
I'm asking you the question.
Yes, and as a sitting judge, I will tell you that it is not appropriate for a judicial nominee to engage in discussion regarding a matter of political controversy with that.
See, this is completely inconsistent with your involvement in the whole Columbia controversy. Completely inconsistent. Because you involved yourself in that controversy. You went out of your way. Nobody asked you to write that letter. You took this upon yourself to do. to insert yourself into that. But you're saying here, you can't answer a simple question about who won the 2020 election because it would somehow implicate you in controversy. I'm sorry, there's no way to square those two things. Mr. Chairman, I yield back. I just wanted to add on to what Senator Whitehouse was saying. In the Central District of California, we have no U.S. attorney. We have no acting U.S. attorney because the person who was acting, their tenure expired. And to get around the confirmation requirement, they have been made the first assistant U.S. attorney and are presumptively running the office from that post. This is someone who has demonstrated their unfitness for the job by going into the grand jury so often. His name is Bill Asaley, and getting a no bill, that is the grand jury refusing an indictment when the bar is only probable cause, that they have taken to calling him No Bill Asaley. It was reported in the LA Times that he was heard shouting at the Justice Department over the phone within earshot of the grand jury, vis-a-vis the Justice Manual's requirement that you don't seek an indictment unless you believe you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt someone's guilt at trial, shouting at the Justice Department over the phone that they can F the Justice Manual. And this is who's left in charge of this office, this very important office. So I just want to acknowledge the concern that Senator Whitehouse raised, and because we're seeing very much the same problem in California. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, here's the setup. Daniel Traynor, Trump's pick for the 8th Circuit, co-signed a 2024 letter pledging not to hire a single law clerk from Columbia all over the school's handling of campus protests. So he had no problem wading into a political firestorm. But the second he sat in that hearing chair, he refused to answer basic factual questions. Democrats put those two things side by side, and that's where the impartiality argument falls apart. And that is exactly the contradiction Schiff zeroes in on. Judges don't forfeit their First Amendment rights, Traynor says, free to tell a university who to hire, but ask him about January 6th. And suddenly, it's a case or controversy he can't touch. He wants it both ways. Schiff just won't let him have it. Then it gets cleaner. Asked flat out who won the 2020 election, Traynor won't say. He hides behind Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and calls it a matter of political controversy. Here's the problem. It isn't controversial. Biden won. Congress certified it. Dozens of courts upheld it. He could say that without touching a single pending case, the same way he freely opined about Columbia. Watch the dodge in real time. There's no case or controversy on hiring clerks, he says, so he's allowed to weigh in there. But the Columbia litigation, the punishment campaign, the lawsuits, that's somehow far afield. It isn't. Schiff names it for what it is. A bias he'll admit on one topic and hide on another. And Traynor wasn't alone. In May 2024, 13 Trump-appointed judges signed that letter, calling Columbia an incubator of bigotry, demanding it hire more conservative faculty and punish protesters. Think about that. Federal judges using lifetime appointments to lean on a private university. That's not neutral. That's a pressure campaign in a robe. So Schiff boxes him in. If you can weigh in on Columbia, will you recuse yourself from any Columbia case? Traynor says no. He holds no bias against the institution. Fine. Then say the same about January 6th. It's easy to say. The letter, though, proves the exact bias he claims he doesn't have. And this is bigger than one nominee. A Demand Justice report found all 27 of Trump's lifetime judicial nominees this year gave misleading answers about 2020 and January 6th. Not one would say Biden won. Most called the Capitol attack something they couldn't comment on, in strikingly similar language. That's not caution, that's a script. This is the moment. Who won the 2020 election? Traynor reaches for the Jackson precedent again and refuses. Schiff's response is simple. There's no way to square that with Columbia. You inserted yourself into one controversy on purpose, then claimed you can't touch a settled fact. That's not principle. That's avoidance. Full stop. Then Senator Whitehouse opens a second front. In the Central District of California, there's no confirmed U.S. attorney and no acting one. To dodge Senate confirmation, an official was installed as first assistant and is effectively running the office, reportedly failing to get grand jury indictments and berating the Justice Department within earshot of jurors. And a California senator backs it up with a name, Bill Asali, going to the grand jury so often and getting no bills, jurors refusing to indict even when the bar is just probable cause, that they started calling him No Bill Asali. Reported shouting at the Justice Department over the phone, where grand jurors could hear it. This is who's left running that office. And here's the kicker. Even Republican Senator John Kennedy warned Traynor not to sign something like that letter again, because Americans already see judges as politicians in robes. When your own side is uneasy, the cover is gone. So here's the line. A nominee who'll tell a university who to hire but won't admit who won an election cannot be trusted to keep politics off the bench. They wanted the lifetime seat. Schiff just made them answer, for the record. Full stop. If this made you think, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.